All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another Green Room conversation. Really excited to have some phenomenal entrepreneurial startup founders with us today. Before we jump into intros on their side, I'll just kind of frame your context. We are here having conversations that we hope will illuminate kind of career paths and future trajectories for folks who might be at a crossroads right now, or might be studying something in STEM or business and not have a good roadmap as to what that might look like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe even 2 years from now. So we're trying to pull in kind of Black and brown expertise and role models and just have real kind of casual conversations to help surface some of these things that you might have as inputs to your decision making in the future. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the popcorn over to Belinda first, and then to Keyvan to just give a quick introduction of who you are, where you are, what you're up to. Feel free to take 2 or 3 minutes
Sure,
for that, and we'll jump into it.
sure.
Belinda.
Well, thank you for that. Hi, everybody. My name is Belinda Batdorf. I am the co-founder for HubbleIQ. I've spent most of my career in tech, the majority of it. I've worked for telecom providers like Quest, Spectrum, Charter Communications. Finally landed in IT managed services with a very initial cloud provider called Navisite. I spent prior to joining HubbleIQ a lot of time there, and we did a lot of IT managed services from like colocation, physical, cloud computing, SaaS, all of that fun stuff. Prior to tech, I did a brief stint in media. Fun fact, I worked for a television station in Minnesota.
Nice.
So I was in a lot of those local horrible commercials as well when we couldn't last minute. Some actors didn't show up, so I had to step in and you do the head nod, the lawyers, the car dealerships. I was in all of those. Um, Personally, I was born and raised in Lusaka, Zambia. I actually moved to the United States as an adult. My entrepreneur journey started there. I realized there was a lack of industrialization, so I started an import business, and that's a fancy way of saying, hey, I used to get on a bus, travel all the way to South Africa to the Dar es Salaam, and in Tanzania as well, and import a lot of stuff that I thought were needed in the country. So I've always wanted to go back to entrepreneurship, and the opportunity to start Hubble IQ presented itself, and here I am.
Beautiful. From the continent over to the US. Are you currently, I see the Bay Area kind of bridge behind you. Is that where you are right now?
I am. I'm in San Jose. I'm in the heart of Silicon Valley.
Got it. Got it. Beautiful. Well, I'll pass the popcorn over now to Keyvan. You want to give a 2, 3, 4 minute intro as well?
Sure. I'm not eating popcorn now. I'm trying to lose the cookie weight. But thanks for having us, Brandon. Really excited to finally be in the green room. I see it floating around on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh man, I want to be a guest on that show. I'm the co-founder, CEO of HubbleIQ, based here in the Bay Area, East Bay, on the other side of Oakland, little town called Lorinda. And I'm a Bay Area native, which I think it's becoming rarer and rarer to see. But I grew up here, moved around a bit, and said, the weather's too good, I'm coming back. But I got into tech really at the ground floor. I was doing help desk and desktop tech support. So when people would call and say, my computer is broken, and they'd be angry and banging their chest, demanding that the IT department would come and fix it, I was the guy. I was the poor intern that they'd send out, try to calm the high-ranking sales or executive person down, and figure out what was going on with their computer. Usually it was their problem, it was their fault, they were doing something wrong, but gotta be nice, gotta treat them well. So I got pulled into that at a really young age, just by virtue of knowing people that knew I had an interest in computers. So, oh, you're good at computers, why don't you go work for a friend of mine who has a computer team, whatever that meant in the late 2000s, early 2000s. I didn't realize I was launching my career at that point. I didn't realize that was an extremely lucky event that had happened in my life to set me on a path to be early in the tech industry. And from there, things sort of, sort of domino effect. I got my degree in engineering, UC Santa Cruz, go Slugs. Ended up working at a big tech company right out of college, Cisco Systems, where Brandon, you and I met. And then from there, got to be exposed and surrounded by some of the best and most groundbreaking technologies in the world. And, you see all these things and, it kind of dawns on you that this technology is not something that everybody can even access, even though it exists. There's a big world out there. And, as a little kid growing up in Richmond, no way in any other way find myself be able to work on this stuff. So, having that view of how big the world is was, I think, a little bit of a hack for me. So going from that big company, I went to a smaller company, a little company called ServiceNow, got big when I was there. And then from there, I just had the itch to go to smaller and smaller companies. As I went to smaller companies, I met Belinda along the way. Meeting Belinda, it was special because, you don't really see too many people who look like us in enterprise B2B SaaS. It's a lonely place for Black, brown folks. So, naturally we hit it off and I said, hey, let's jump ship and start our own thing. And let's start this company called HubbleIQ, which I will talk about when we get into it. But yeah, since then we've been at it for about 3-4 years, and we're here today talking to you and hoping to inspire others to, take risks, meet people, and maybe do the same thing if that's in the cards for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Maybe on that point, I could ask a little bit about like your role models that you had. Like, did you have any examples of entrepreneurship in your own families? Maybe I'll pass it to Belinda. You have a different context, like growing up outside of the United States, in Africa, and then just maybe paint a picture for how entrepreneurship was either like inbred in you, or it was something that you observed over time and started to like take good examples of it and just say, oh yeah, I want to do what they're doing.
That's a good question. I did have inspiration in the family. My mother is an entrepreneur. So, I was lucky enough to start somewhere. She had a hair salon, then she ended up having, a boutique, and so I used to go there and help her, from banking the money to doing hair.
Mm.
Everything she needed, I did. So, and then she also would started importing stuff. So it was sort of a natural thing for me to be like, okay, I can do that too. And she was very, very successful in what she was doing. And on the other side, my dad always worked, but I would say, he was sort of a hustler. He was in sales, and he also would go to different cities and start open up the company's branch, which was all new. We had to figure that out, and we traveled all over the country doing that. So I had pretty good role models in my life.
Yeah. How about on your side, Keyvan? Did you see it from an early age, or did you like discover it once you kind of launched out into your tech career?
Sure. You know what? I think, the entrepreneurial role model figure for me would be my dad. He, came to this country. He's from the Middle East, and, he kind of came with that entrepreneurial spirit ingrained in him, by virtue of his family back in Iran. They had a factory, and, that's just sort of how he was brought up. So sort of being around him, starting his own business, a used car dealership. And, we didn't have, fancy childcare back then. My childcare was sitting in the office with him doing all the clerical work. And then, and then running across the street to get on the bus with my mom, who was driving up and down San Pablo Avenue on AC Transit, right? That was my childcare during the summer. So that exposure made the idea of running a company or starting a business less foreign, and it surrounded me with people who just sort of treated that as a default. So that at that point, I kind of had the itch sort of was created at that point. And then as I got older, maybe in the high school years, when I got kind of pulled into IT, along the way, the folks that pulled me in were actually Black, and they were Black folks who were in city, government type of positions. Again, how I ended up there was by luck. But you're kind of surrounded by Black excellence when you're around people of that caliber, and just by proximity, you get influenced by it, and you're like, oh, well, I got the itch, and I can see that people who look like me can actually do it. So what's stopping me? I've got just about everything in front of me to do it. And, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's okay, because I have the capability to figure it out. And I think that's something that people need to always remember, is that, as long as you got this thing working as well as possible, and it's healthy, yeah, the world's gonna throw problems at you. And, and so a lot of reasons why you shouldn't take risks, but if you have the capability to figure it out, don't lose your window of opportunity. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I ended up here with Belinda.
I think that is such a good point. If you have the drive and you have the intelligence to do something, you should just do it. There are always obstacles, right? And things that can make you doubt yourself. When I moved to the United States, a lot of some of the Africans, what I was told when I was in Zambia is, hey, you're going to be like a CNA, which is a very honorable job, right? But it's sort of like a common thing. That's what you're going to do when you go to the US. You're going to be a CNA. And I absolutely respect the job. But I didn't want to do that. It wasn't for me.
Was it
And,
CNA?
a certified nurse's assistant,
Oh,
and, care, elderly care mostly. And so when I came here, I already knew I didn't want to do that. And, I had an education from Zambia, and I applied because I wasn't confident yet. I applied for temp jobs.
Mm.
None of them called me back. None, zero. And I told myself, wait a minute, I think I can do more. I went on, online, found a couple jobs that I think I matched and I could do. I'd never lived here before. I said, okay, I can do this based on the fact that I could do them back home.
Mhm.
I applied, and they were much higher than the temp jobs that I was looking at initially. But I didn't get any responses. I was rejected at every single one. And higher pay, higher jobs, I just went for it. And I applied for 3 jobs in media. And I got 2 interviews, and I got 1 job.
Mm.
And what I did in order to get the job, it was an hour and a half away. My husband and I drove with a little baby for me to go to this interview. And they told me, okay, sell us something, come back and sell us something, because we're not confident, because you're not from here, that you can do it. And of course, I knew if I sold anything from here, I would be stopped. They were the experts of America. I wasn't. I was a newbie. So you know what I did? I came back and did a presentation on a trip to Zambia, because I knew they would ask me all sorts of questions. I would know
Yeah.
everything, and I got the job.
Found your
My first job in the
expertise
US.
level.
Yeah.
Play to your strengths, right? Like I think we hit a couple of bullets that are worth kind of pulling out, in that exposure kind of at an early age to entrepreneurs is something that's important for your journey. Sometimes it's not a tech job or like some like super sophisticated, fancy startup. It could be a salon. It could be, a car dealership, but those skills are for sure like transferable, it seems. So I don't want listeners or people who watch this to miss that, or to downplay the experience that you already have, maybe with some community business or something that your family is into. That experience, just like, Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates had experience in their dorm rooms before they dropped out to do their thing. So I appreciate you guys pulling those points out, and maybe to keep the conversation going. Like, when you think about what it means to actually have started something from scratch and from the ground up, walk people through, like, okay, so you're working at a job, corporate 9 to 5.
Yeah.
The moment you hit the eject button, like, what kind of infrastructure do you have to build up? What kind of things do you have to do in order to actually start your own business and actually be an entrepreneur for real? So I'm not sure which of you wants to take the first crack at it.
I can take the first crack at it. So I will say, going from cushy sort of, call it a cubicle tech job, into the entrepreneurial world. It does require some. It's not just a matter of deciding I want to do it, right? You're gonna have basic needs. I actually did it as a father, right? I had my first kid, and during the pandemic, and I had a second kid, right? So I don't advise you having kids during a pandemic to start a business. Tough time to do it, but hopefully no one will have to deal with that combination of things again. I will say that the benefit of doing it when you're really young is that you have very little responsibility. I live in an apartment with 10 other guys, and whatever, I make a little side hustle money, and then I can start my own company. The way that I did it was, essentially set, I looked at the overall situation and said, okay, basic needs, are sort of met. Now I have the ability to afford to do this while maintaining my quality of life. And I think that's something people forget, is that starting a company is kind of it's a privilege, and in a sense, it's like, I wouldn't say a luxury, but it's something that a lot of people who are arguably much more likely to be successful don't have that infrastructure to do it. So when you're coming out and you have this idea, maybe you don't have a rich parents who can just give you a big check and keep your lights on. Well, then, that's your cue to figure out how to build that infrastructure in a more conservative way, maybe get that desk job for a while. And now we live in a remote era where you can do things online. I mean, you could segment and manage your personal time and actually, get some product market fit or validation before you take the full leap. So I think we live in a time like no other, whereas before you kind of had to make a, sort of a binary decision. But I will say, don't jeopardize your basic needs. Make sure you're in a position to do it. Don't jeopardize your, don't put you in a situation where your relationships are jeopardized because you're putting financial strain on the company. It's not a fairy tale journey. There are ups and downs, and you just need to be able to absorb them, but be realistic about what you can absorb, and be realistic about how long you can go. Because at the end of the day, time keeps ticking, and you gotta live your life. And you don't want to be chasing the wrong thing for too long.
Yeah, thanks for starting us off. And to keep it like tactical, Belinda, like, how did you start a website? Who did you have to file paperwork with? Like, what's the keep going on that thread of what do we have to do and factor into like just starting it up from scratch?
I think it's much easy. It was definitely easier for us because we're in tech, right? You sort of have some foundation, and people around you that can help you. You sort of maybe even had some discussions while you were working, and with some people that you bounced ideas off of. So that network is what you tap in for, people that can help you to start that foundation, whether it's building a website. Somebody knows somebody, right? So you tap into that network, and you ask around, and they know somebody that can help you. And sometimes it's offshoring because you don't have any money in the beginning at all. So network is absolutely important, and that's what we tapped into in order to start setting up the foundation for ourselves. But in terms of licensing, you just you have to do it on your own, and just do research, and just do research and do it.
Yeah. So let's so today you each find yourself kind of remotely being productive and getting stuff done, and like trying to acquire customers for whatever service that HubbleIQ is actually offering. Take a second to actually describe what it is, like in layman's terms. I'll kick it to you, Keyvan, just to give folks who listen like a sense of like what is it,
Yeah, no, it's happy to. I've been telling the pitch countless times over the last several months that we fundraise. So, but in short, HubbleIQ is a software that companies all around the world are using to support their remote workforce. So the way to think about it is, in the old days, in the office days, IT spent a lot of money and time creating an environment where workers could be productive, secure, making sure that Wi-Fi is working, all the applications are working, basically all the wheels and tires and windows that run the business were in always pristine condition. Now, when everybody went home, they didn't stop caring about that stuff, right? It's just that they didn't have control over all the tires and wheels and windows and doors that are powering the business. So what happened to create a lot of risk in sort of that system, operational risk. So what HubbleIQ does essentially provides a way for businesses to have the best of both worlds. Like, look, let your employees be remote. Don't spend a ton of money on an office space if that's not what you want to do, but don't sacrifice their productivity and security just because they're sharing the same Wi-Fi network as their kid downstairs who's playing what is it, Fortnite now or Grand Theft? I don't know what kids are playing these days, but the employees still need to be able to take calls like this, and there's a lot of cost to technology issues. Especially the ones that you can't reach, the ones that you can't walk up to and fix, like I used to do back in the day when I was an intern. People are in Mexico, they're going to be in Hawaii, they're constantly moving around. So we help companies sort of automatically manage all those things so that their business keeps humming smoothly and uninterruptedly.
Got it. And the fact that you're serving folks from all over the world versus just in the US, like Belinda, how is kind of the international market or kind of outside of the US? How do you look at that in terms of customers or in terms of just like doing business and positioning yourself as not just, a North American or US firm?
I think for us, we knew that the problem is similar. Digital experience is digital experience, whether you're in India, you're in the US, wherever you are, it's still important to the business. So we designed the company to be product led. And what that means is it allowed us to not have borders. Anybody can get into a free trial. It doesn't matter where you are, right? Because we know the problem is very, very similar. And so customer profile, very similar. We're global. The value proposition doesn't change wherever the clients are located.
And then to the question about like designing something that will appeal to all the different markets. I know, some of our listeners might know what like localization is, for example, or like different languages in a country that doesn't speak English. Coming from kind of different family backgrounds, different places, were you able to like lean into your family network, local community, like ethnic network in order to do some pre-launch type of things to make sure that the product before you launched it was like ready to go?
That is huge. You have to, the relationship we created along the way, of course, we were testing the product out with a different network of former customers, people that we knew. We absolutely did that. You are as good as your network. Network is huge in our business. So they definitely came through and helped us, whether it's work, connections over time, family, anybody. But yeah, they were fundamental.
Well, I'll add to that. The network is create that network if you don't have a network, right? And that's where your focus should be, because that's going to reduce a lot of friction. There's still going to be hustle and grind. But in terms of the global reach, English is sort of the language of business. So we're taking advantage of that. Localization will be a part of our strategy as we grow. But another thing is looking at really cheap. When I say cheap, I mean time versus time over cost. Ways to acquire signals from the market as quickly and at scale as much scale as possible. So when we sort of look at our traction, our first client came from India, and that was us looking at data, right? Looking like the matrix right on our screen, like what is the data telling us? We put feelers out in various ways, and there are some interesting ways to do it. We actually had a different tool that sort of gave us a lot of insight to tell us, oh, there's business B2B opportunity here, and it's in these regions. It's actually in regions where infrastructure isn't as great as the Silicon Valley. And oh, by the way, the world's a lot bigger than the Silicon Valley, right? You guys, that's the hard thing when we're fundraising or when we're trying to tell what we do. You can't talk to folks that don't realize how big the world is, how many companies and teams of remote people who are working over the internet now. It's like, oh, I don't have Wi-Fi issues. Yeah, because you could buy a $1,000 router and $2,000 internet service. Guess what? There's 7 billion people on the planet who don't have that luxury, that need to be able to get online to do work, to do education, get healthcare. So looking at data And getting that data in a cost-effective way as a startup is absolutely critical to helping us know where our growth opportunities are. And in some cases, it's going to be the United States. In a lot of cases, what we're seeing right now is it's actually not, but it's okay because, like the one that said, the problems profile is the same, and we're able to build it once and sell it hopefully 1 billion times.
Yeah, and interesting enough, like as you saw during COVID, the digital divide was really, exposed, right? We live in bubbles sometimes where we do have good connectivity where we are, but what if you need people that are skilled and affordable in another area, right? And then they don't have the infrastructure or good enough to be able to do their jobs. That's a problem. It means they're not fully utilizing their digital opportunities, right? And we should all have that opportunity. And we're in these bubbles where we thought everything's great, and we knew we had kids that were accessing education in parking lots. I think you saw that news article. I think it was in Monterey County, and the schools were not aware until it was published in the news, right? And so for us, it was very motivating for us to lean into that. And we actually worked with a school system, a charter school system called Achievement First during the pandemic, because they mainly serve Black and Brown students. And we were, the tech support arm for all the schools. It was about 15,000 students. Oh, wow. And we were able to show them these kids are struggling, and they were able to do something about it with our platform. And then the bigger thing that they also wanted to solve is most of these kids come from homes where it's their first time owning a computer, right? If they have an issue, they don't know. Where do they go? What do they do? And so we had this self-service, agent that sat on the desktop that would help the students and their families, empower them to start solving some of those, level 1 issues. Hey, you can go to school here. Hey, grandma's house is not the appropriate house for you to learn. Do this, do that. And so I think I'm most proud of that. Of all the customers we have, I'm most proud of that customer.
Yeah, to that kid who is kind of the STEM rock star, and your grandmas, your aunties, your uncles, your mom and dad's tech support. What you're describing sounds like a great, like, automated way for somebody who's in that position, always getting texted, always getting messaged like, I need you to fix this, or I need you to do that, to kind of automate that away and give the value so that you can free up your time. So it's great that you were able to offer that in such a critical time where folks, I mean, we're all parents on the line here. I know my daughter and my son were having such difficulty kind of doing the Zoom school for that 1.5 years. So even incremental improvements to the experience can make a big difference in a child's life, right?
Yeah. You realize how important the connectivity is. I mean, can you imagine if you did not, because of sort of financial reasons or whatever, if you didn't have access to the power of the internet at your fingertips at all times? Like, imagine if 6 months Brandon Middleton didn't have internet, like, how would that impact your life? And it's not a situation I could imagine, but kind of working with this organization and a lot of the numbers that came out from the pandemic. I mean, this was a lot of people who just didn't have access. They had to get rush shipped hotspots just to get online. Like, it's mind blowing that in the United States, this was a significant number of the population. And again, the world's a big place, right? So, think about if that's the US, what about the rest of the world?
Yeah, I saw a graphic that made me smile. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that triangle of humans need oxygen, humans need food, humans need love. And then somebody had scribbled Wi-Fi on the very base. It's it's funny, but it's kind of true. You need a connection in order to get most of your your life stuff done
Yeah.
in addition to the work stuff that you've got to do. So
Personal and professional.
yeah. So let me what we'll do, like we're halfway through, I wanted to pivot into a little bit of like a little lightning round or some fun facts that'll help the audience know even more about you. We'll start with Belinda, and since again we're all parents, maybe I'll start with the last thing maybe that a kid said or your child said that like that really made you smile or laugh out loud.
Oh, man. Uh, my daughter is a funny girl, my youngest, and she was just making me smile because we did this DNA thing, and we found that my grandfather was like Portuguese,
Mhm.
and she just kept saying Portuguese,
Ah,
Portuguese. She's smart, but she's just trying to be funny, and so it's a thing now that we say in the house all the time, like, oh yeah, you're Portuguese and Portuguese. So I know it's silly. But in terms of proud moment, I think I just shared this with Keyvan the other day, yesterday actually. We had back to school. That made me smile. I'm very proud. Back to school night, and I of course I know my daughter's intelligent, but we were doing the classroom tour, and we got to one class, and the teacher was like, this is the class for the smartest kids at this school. It's geometry. She's 13 years old. It's a high school class. She's in middle school. And I looked around the room, and I was the only Black person in that room,
Hmm.
and she put me there. And
Yeah.
I was so proud. It was one of those moments where you're like, wow, I'm here because she's exceptional, and she's making moves, and she created this opportunity for me as a Black woman to sit in this class and just smile and be proud.
Mhm. That's like a mic droppable. Kayvon, I'm sorry, you have to go and follow that, man.
I got two under 5-year-olds, so definitely not in we're not elementary school kids and college courses yet, like Belinda's daughter, but hopefully that'll be our trajectory. Good examples being set here. Mine's a little simpler. My new, I'm not newborn now, she's a year and a half. She's starting to talk, and it's actually really funny to hear her reflect our mannerisms, my wife and my mannerisms. So one thing she started to say is, oh wow, like the most sarcastic, uninterested wow. So I'll say, hey Nessa, come look at this, come look at this toy. She goes, she's not even looking at it, she goes, wow. so I'd be looking at it like, hey, that's you're saying that, you taught her that. Wow. So yeah, every morning now she's just already becoming a sarcastic, uninterested Gen what is it, Gen Beta, what is it? I don't know.
That's D now. I don't even know what they're
I don't know
calling.
what's next, Alpha, Beta. Yeah, so anyway, put a
Yeah.
smile on the face.
It'll be like the Jetsons soon, like maybe flying cars will be a reality for for their generation or something.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So let's see, let's keep the fun facts going. How about food that you love to either cook or eat? Like I know we've got like lots of cultures and ethnicities in each of your blood. Like what do you guys' kitchens smell like, or what are you typically cooking up for your families?
Uh, I love all food, first of all, to make that clear. We eat everything and anything. My kids are all American. They like burgers and fries and the usual stuff, pizza. I do every once in a while cook nshima, which is it's like a corn mash. I think in West Africa they have something similar with cassava called fufu. We have like i- something similar in Zambia called nshima or pop in South Africa. So tsadza in Zimbabwe. So you cook that with a lot of stews,
Mm.
lots of flavor, garlic, curries, fish, chicken, all of that, and lots of roasts. And we braai them, not barbecue them.
Oh,
In Shima. Okay, I learned a new word today. Keyvan, how about on your side?
I love a good braai, as they say. Still waiting for my braai invite, Belinda.
It's coming.
I'm kidding. Man, you know what? I'm a California boy. I love Mexican food. Like, I'm not talking about just like Taco Tuesday Mexican food. I love like all the flavors of Mexico. I've traveled around, and yeah, that don't tell my Middle Eastern family this, but if I had to pick one, it'll probably be Mexican food, and it's rubbing off on my kids as well. Like my 4-year-old, hey, what do you want? What for dinner? You want pizza, or you want? She goes, I want ceviche. Like, excuse me, 4-year-old ceviche. But yeah, I put some avocado in there. I'm like, you better make a lot of money because you got some expensive eating habits here. So yeah, so we cook Mexican food a lot. And if I'm talking about advanced Mexican food, stamped approval by some of my Mexican friends. So that's what's in my kitchen.
I love it. I love it.
That's
Maybe
cute.
the third one, you touched on it in terms of travels, but like places either on your bucket list to go or to return to now that we're coming out of this COVID era. Belinda, what maybe one or two places?
Yeah. So I love traveling. Love it. It feeds my soul. I just came back from Zambia, Dubai, which was great. Place that I love is Italy.
Mhm.
I want to go back and spend as much time as possible in Italy. I could spend months and travel everywhere. Every single city is just different and beautiful. I love the culture. So Italy for me, I'll go there any day.
Love it. How about you, Keyvan?
You know what? One of my favorite places to visit is Turkey, actually. Istanbul is one of my favorite cities. It's just a mix of a lot of different cultures and eras, and you feel it when you walk down the street. Food's incredible. Yeah, it's definitely Turkey. Middle East in general. I love traveling around the Middle East, but I think that on my list is Zambia. I don't know. I saw some pictures from Belinda's trip. I'm like, man, I need to go to Zambia. Like, that's
Yeah.
out there. I've been to South Africa for some work in the past. That's an incredible place too, if you're in the right places. But I don't know, Zambia might be on my list now. She takes me.
It's home. It's home. So, anytime.
All
In
right.
2 years, we have a ton of people going in 2 years. They're already budgeting.
You got babysitters there on
Everybody can come.
okay. Yeah, I got the childcare situation. If you got on,
Childcare is
okay, I'll be
cheap
there.
there. Like you're gonna get a babysitter, with you the whole time, and you can have some fun.
All right.
Yeah.
So
So for the listeners out there, hopefully you heard a lot of places, you heard a lot of genres of food, and you'll take that as a homework assignment for each of us to go out and try something new here. So to pivot it back to the convo that we were having, I noticed that both of you guys have the founder t-shirt on, and I wonder, like, as you think about kind of moving the company forward, you want to talk a little bit about kind of funding your company and sustaining its growth. Like, how do startup entrepreneurs kind of think about that as they build, especially like in crazy macroeconomic times like this?
yeah. I got some deep thoughts, but I'll defer to B to kick it off because it's a big hot topic of conversation that we have every single day. So.
It is. The funding situation is definitely not easy, right? We don't look like the typical founders, and so we have to work. It's whatever they say, twice as hard. It's real and it's true, right? And some of the validation points that you need to have in order even for people to talk to you are higher standards. You need to have a product, you need to have this much revenue, you need to have this. We know people that have gotten obviously funding with just an idea, but that's not a luxury for us, right? So you really have to work hard at it. And I can tell you, like, we probably so far we've had maybe 60 conversations with different VCs. And we're still going. So it's not an easy journey, but you can't give up, right? I think initially when we went at it, we were new. So we were just, more general. And then we learned, and we just began to be more precise in how we went after these VCs who aligns with us, right? Who is likely product wise. Honestly, race. A lot of different factors, who is likely to give us the money and give us a chance, who is going to resonate with the problem that we're trying to solve. All of those things, we created a new list that was just very, very, very targeted, and we are in a good place. We're almost closing on a, capital from, a firm, and which we're very, very excited about, but it didn't come easy. We knocked on a lot of doors and we got so much rejection, and you really have to have thick skin, but you can't quit. If you know and you validated the problem, keep going, keep knocking on those doors. Somebody will open eventually.
Yeah, you mentioned community earlier in the call, and I know from the T-shirt that you've got on from the accelerator, you want to talk a little bit about community building and like tweaking your idea and getting maybe more resonance with it, as you progress through in a community fashion, Keyvan?
Yeah, I think that's a great sort of segue from what Belinda just said. As we talk to more firms, we got a bit savvier about not only who we talk to, but our approach. Mm-hmm. And the bar is higher for us, and throughout modern history it has been higher for us. This is just a digitized version of it, but it's made us stronger, and we do it so that the generation behind us has less friction, right? And that's our hopes, right? And I think Howard, one of the execs at Amazon said, it is a black and white, it has a big factor in when you're playing this game, but at the end of the day, green is what's going to change the culture. They see profitability. I think it was the CEO of Y Combinator actually said on the call. He goes, they don't care, black or white gets them to the yacht. So you just gotta prove that you can execute. And I think we are exceptional execution, because we had to grow through the thorn bush, not only a pandemic, but over Zoom and being the way that we look. I will say that we took some earlier swings at it, and fundraising is a risky game to play too, especially when you have a team and you have product savvy. You have to realize that fundraising is a full-time job, and it will take you away from developing and growing your company if you have a runway to do it. And we got to a point where we realized that the message wasn't resonating for various reasons. The market was doing weird things right at the beginning of the pandemic. People weren't really convinced that remote work was the future, which our thesis from the very beginning was that. And we kind of kept it for as long as we could between ourselves. We decided, said, look, we're going to stop for a moment, and we're going to keep this relationship between us and the market. The market's going to validate us, not our ability to try and convince somebody who may or may not understand the space and take a risk, because we have to, we're going to have to de-risk this as much as possible before we go back out there and try to raise some capital. And we had a tough conversation, and we put a really aggressive target in front of us and said, okay, let's do this. This could be suicide, right? But let's go. And we did it, right? We went out and with our our scrappy team, we were able to get an MVP out. We were able to get a good list of revenue paying customers, and we met a higher bar that the current market conditions have made the new standard. So now that we're out there having these conversations, it's like, yeah, do you have revenue? Do you have paying customers? Do you have, these are the questions they were asking a year ago, or 2 years ago. Now they're asking, and guess what? We're ready for them, because we went straight to the market, said, okay, venture, we're going to come back to you later. It's going to be us in the market. We'll get the validation, and we're going to do your job for you. We're going to de-risk this thing. So just be prepared for that, but understand it's a numbers game, right? It's a two-way relationship. And now that, when you're a bit more confident, you need to be questioning the firms the same way they're questioning you. Mm-hmm. It's like dating. You can't go and say, please like me. That's not how people date. It has to work both ways. And I've been on calls or we've been on calls where it's like, no, these guys aren't going to get what we do. Let's get our 15 minutes back. Go sit in the backyard. It's a nice day, because this is wasting time. And I think the stat was like 100 calls on average to close a firm. So no, that's what you're getting into. Don't go in expecting to do the whole cocktail napkin at a nice San Francisco bar and walk out with a check. Yeah, nah. You gotta have tough skin. You gotta be ready for the long haul.
Yeah.
And not partner with somebody who is, or figure out a different game plan.
Yeah, it's great to get the real talk from folks who might watch these Shark Tank or glorified types of programs on Netflix or wherever, and get like a false sense of what it'll actually take to grind through the valley in order to get to like that glacier that's right above the water line, which they think is the only part of it, right? So I appreciate you guys for like pulling the realness and like the day-to-day real day in the life experiences out.
I just learned something the other day about Shark Tank, by the way. Half of those deals fall apart because of due diligence. Did you know that? Yeah, they don't talk about that. Like handshake and success story, and then TechCrunch and the founders doing this and this and that. What were the terms, and how many of those deals fell apart in due diligence, right? So don't believe what you think. Advice that one of our advisors gave us. Now, step one, get off of TechCrunch and all these publication articles, because they're just going to get you jaded about what your expectation should be. Like silence all the noise and then go after it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to I know we just got a couple minutes left here, but to bring it full circle and to talk about bringing kind of business and humanity like together. Like I think COVID made it really clear to us that we have to do better at balance and do better at just being holistic in order to be effective and have that sustain us over the long term. So Belinda, what are a couple of things that you do or practices that you have that help you to keep your balance, to like make sure all of the things are in alignment in order to do your best work?
I think I surround myself with a cool group of people that ground me. They're also my therapy. So I think that's very, very helpful because it is a tough journey. And you have to have a support system around you. It is also still a lonely journey being a founder, because even if you have friends, they've never done this. They've never lived what we're doing. And I do have to say, you have to have a partner that you have to be friends. First of all, you just can't go out there and find a co-founder. That's just not how it works, because it's tough. And Keyvan is my therapist half the time, and vice versa, right? Because we're going through this together, and it's tough. It's really tough. And so, surround yourself with people that ground you, that you can bounce off of, but, have a good partner that you can really, talk to when things are tough, when you're having insecurities, whatever. I think having that friendship, deep friendship, I'm very lucky. I think we're very lucky to really, have each other. But I also, I run, exercise. That's very helpful for me to just ground myself and my mental state.
How about you, Keyvan? What's your?
Yeah, everything Belinda just said, absolutely. Just to add to it, I think know how to manage stress, and don't take for granted some quiet time to stare at a wall, right? We think that we have to constantly be productive, and if we are resetting, we have to, I'm a runner too, right? I used to run a lot more, but I run and exercise and yoga and all the generic stuff. Like no, sitting, like if you had a rough day, you sit on the couch and you just like stare at a wall for 30 minutes. That's your therapy, right? Like it's your time, it's quiet time. Like don't think that's a waste of time. That's restoration time. That's going to put you back in balance, or whatever your thing is. Does not have to be, getting in better shape and eating more kale and writing more. No, put your headphones on and do your own thing. To have that time, it's going to carry through to your work. It's going to make you happier, and you prioritize it.
Yeah, you want to hear my funny thing that brings balance to me these days? So my wife, she's got some friends in like Japan and Korea, and I never thought, like, if I had never met her, this would not be happening. But I really enjoy reading English subtitles and watching Korean dramas now. And I totally
K-drama.
pre-COVID, I would not have been that guy. But yeah, thank you, Netflix. Thank you, me, if you watch this.
What K-pop? K-pop too?
No K-pop yet. I mean, I know BTS and some of those, I know who they are, but like I haven't started listening and done the deep dive in the music, but like there's some fascinating the way that different cultures approach media and entertainment is definitely different than the way that Americans kind of put shows and put movies and things like that together. So if you're listening and you've never watched any Bollywood or Nollywood or any like other culture or ethnicity's way of doing, media and entertainment, I would challenge you to go and check something like that out.
What's the K-drama show you're watching? I'm gonna write it down.
There's one called like The Magnificent Attorney Wu. It's like a almost like Law and Order, but this attorney who's like a genius has autism. And she goes and does like court cases all in like, South Korea. But I think Netflix, I have a friend who's also been on The Green Room, who's basically the director of like inclusion and like kind of bringing differently abled perspectives into Netflix like shows. So every time I watch this show, I think of like this attorney genius autistic, character being played out. And I mean, it's good TV as well. So
Extraordinary Attorney Wu. I'll check it out.
yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Too.
Well, cool. This is a great way to kind of wrap things up and end it. We always do this, but just say on behalf of our community, just a big thank you, Belinda and Keyvan, not only for the conversation, but just for like the role model status that you hold and for what you're doing and like what you are trailblazing and making a path for, other folks who watch this to follow. So, on behalf of our community, thank you so much. And thanks to, our participating universities, Stanford and University of Illinois, who we collaborate with on, cool community activities. But I'll hand the microphone over to each of you for like a last bar of wisdom or parting word, if you like. Mama taught me ladies first, so I'll hand it to Belinda first, and then Keyvan, you close us out, man.
Yeah, I want to end with this. It's a tough journey, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. There's obstacles. Don't use those as excuses. Just you gotta keep going, right? Drown out the noise, like Keyvan said, and go for it. I'm a woman, minority in tech, which is not an easy journey, but here I am, right? So I hope that you can look at me and you can be like, okay, I can do this too. I'm very mission oriented, and even taking this risk and this journey, it's bigger than me. I know that. And that's what drives me, even when it's hard, because I would like these, black and brown girls to look at me and be like, if she can do it, I can do it. So that's what drives me more so than money is great, but more so than money, to be honest. If this is successful, it's really going to be bigger than the financial benefit.
Yeah, I love that. I've got 10-year-old daughter that it'll be her homework to watch this conversation at some point. So I feel that 100%. Over to you, Keyvan.
Nothing wrong with making money your motivation to do this. People say, what drives you? Like, there's a lot of things that drive me, but we want to make a lot of money in the process, right? So don't be shy of that. Take the journey, but be open to a destination. But also be sure to be open about what success looks like, because where we end up will be the successful destination, but it might not be the one we're thinking about. So that you're remembering that keeps us going, even when we're hitting turbulence. Like, maybe this is part of our turn to reach success. And the last words of wisdom is, if you want to learn more about what we do, visit HubbleIQ.com, like the Hubble telescope, HubbleIQ.com. You'll see Belinda and my picture on there, and you can actually download our stuff and check it out if you work remotely or learn remotely if you're doing Zoom school. Yeah, and let us know how we can help. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, well, on behalf of, again, the community college crew on this side, just thanks to each of you. Thank you for the folks that are watching this and listening, for investing an hour. Maybe this is something that'll be helpful in your future. I had fun with this conversation. Thank you guys for the laughs and some smiles here, but also for the information. I think it's going to be helpful for our community here. So until we meet again, have a great weekend and Friday afternoon, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right.
Thank you.
Brandon.
Bye.